All right, hey, Jeremy here. We are starting a new thing today. I've been messing with more and more video content and definitely doing the Timelapse Tuesdays. But I kind of wanted to do something that, I don't know, was sort of audio commentary. Forever when I worked, I would mostly listen to audio commentaries, more so than just about anything, more than TV shows or movies. They were kind of nice. You could put them on, listen to the commentary, listen to the creators and cast of a movie talk about something. Occasionally look over for the good parts, if you wanted to see when something crazy was going on or when there was a perfect shot that they were talking about, you could kind of look over to the screen. This one that I'm doing really is going to give me a chance to talk a little bit about the project Sabbatical at the Elms. I'll dive deeper into the Elms itself and kind of the trip, but I wanted to definitely talk a little bit about the process of making this particular piece. The Sabbatical at the Elms, the idea came whenever I was in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. With COVID and everything, I hadn't really gone anywhere or done anything, and some fantastic friends who are in the hotel business in Excelsior Springs were like, "Hey, you should come up here and write for a little bit of a sabbatical." So I took a week and did that, and I got up there and realized that these places were respecting safety protocols. They really cared about making sure that things were safe, so that was really good. It The hotel itself, it's the third iteration of the Elms. It was built in 1912. Two other previous versions of the Elms were lost to pretty raging fires, but it's the hotel itself. Famously, from being around for 125 years, is supposedly pretty haunted. Of course, writing the stories that I do for the Haunthology stuff, I was like, well, this is perfect. I really, I'm going to tell a spooky story about this spooky place. I want to preface everything and say, kicking things off, that I didn't see any, thing that was really that supernatural while I was there. But, it's okay. I'm a bit of a skeptic. I respect other people's belief in the things that they've seen, but I haven't seen anything. So the idea for the story really came from my own personal view of things. As a skeptic, I am in this place and I'm open to things. But one of the things that I always kind of joke about is that, as someone that enjoys going into creepy places, I'll walk through old buildings or I'll gladly stay in your haunted hotel. Because I'm almost willing to let something eat me if it means that I get to see it first. I really would love, as such a horror fan, a fan of fantasy and horror and all those wonderful things, I'd totally be down for that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm at peace. I can just show me something cool before I go. While I was at the Elms, my friends Scotty Young and Andy Parks also visited the hotel. We had a great chance to write in our rooms, but then we also got some really cool safe spaces to work in. They were private spaces. We could socially distance ourselves, wear masks if we were together. But we could, we could basically write individually and then sort of come together and have drinks and hang out a little bit. But we could, sit around a fire pit, a safe distance away from one another. So, thinking about this story and thinking about what I wanted to do for it, I thought it'd be fun to cast my buddy Andy Parks for the role of for the skeptic in this. I've drawn myself several times. I've drawn other friends and everything like that in these stories. But what I love about Andy, my favorite thing, is that for as much of a throwback as I can be, Andy's like a true throwback. He loves. He was actually probably one of the reasons that I got into like cool hats and stuff like that. And he's a man from a better era. He's one of my favorite people, and I love his look and just everything about his demeanor. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna write this character that is this kind of grumpy writer that writes spooky stories in cool places but doesn't really believe any of this stuff. You can see on this page that I'm currently inking how amazing this place was. I loved the feel of the Elms. It's got a lot of like classic Missouri stone architecture, but then the interior, is definitely one part Overlook Hotel from The Shining. And I couldn't not think of that. I couldn't not imagine, those images. I really wanted to draw these wide shots, these broad views of the hotel. The foyer itself and everything. They're just fantastic. One of the things that I tend to do, especially when it comes to architecture, is I obsess over the little details. I really get into. While we were there, Scotty and Andy were joking about my propensity for drawing every damned window and brick, and they're not wrong. I do that, but I love the detail. The only other thing I ever thought of being besides a comic book artist was actually an architect. That would have been kind of cool. But well, I guess more like a draftsman. I would have done like drawings of buildings more than I think probably proper architecture. That got kind of boring. But I really loved for a while a family member that was an architect, and I was kind of into that. But I think it shines through in my work. But I loved this foyer. I loved this entrance, and I really, loved the look of the hotel, and I really wanted to do it justice. I spent forever on, especially this first page. This first page took me a few days to pencil and ink. It was, a lot of work there. One of the things that I really wanted to do with this story, as I was, especially the kind of juxtaposition of the story, it's like the images and the dialogue. You've got the character walking through the building, and he doesn't see anything. He doesn't see any of the things around him. But I really, and if you look closely in almost every panel, there's some kind of strange figure in the background, some eyes and a slight smile, or a figure kind of standing off at the top of the stairs. Strange things from different time periods. The Elms itself, the hotel, it talks about a lot of the spirits are there. None of them are malevolent. They all seem to be perfectly nice and just just kind of in there. None of them seem to be poltergeists or anything too angry. So I did take a little bit of license with that for this. I kind of wanted to talk about spookier things, possibly things that are in fact going to to eat him as it goes. But I had a lot of fun with figuring out kind of how to place those in the panels and kind of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to show. I like the idea that as much as in horror movies, you have the jump scares and things like that. I always loved the small moments, the quiet moments, the things that maybe we see as the audience, but the person in the story doesn't see, and that was really important here. I've got this down shot on page 2, and I had these bare legs just kind of dangling there, floating, dangling. Are they hanging? Are they just floating along? I don't know, but I thought that was a really striking, creepy image, and I also love the idea that as much as anything. Comics, I don't know. Comics tend to be you can either sit there and really absorb a story, and spend a long time with it, or you can read it very, very quickly. And a lot of times it's very easy to read these stories very, very quickly. A lot of comics I end up reading in, I don't know, 12 minutes or something like that. And I kind of wanted to reward the viewer that was willing to spend some time with this. I wanted you to maybe take a look at it and then take a look at it again when you realize that there were creepy things in the hallway. And does every panel have something? Pretty much. I think that when it comes to telling these stories, I like to think that there's a central theme that runs through them, but for me, while each story can be slightly different, it all had to feel very much like me. And you know, this story is about exploration and about being open to things. I like the idea that this guy, is, in a lot of ways is me again. He's willing to, if if the things in the dark happen to, this thing at the end, this strange ghostly creature wants to eat him, he's writing. He doesn't notice. A process thing. This is actually kind of a fun little bit about this particular page. So on the final page, the shot, I really wanted to do something that had a ton of atmosphere and really felt ghostly, otherworldly. I knew I wanted the figure there with all the skulls. And really what I was trying to do was imply that maybe this is, several spirits in one, something kind of terrible. I thinking back to, say, The Shining, where you had that, the woman in the bathtub, how she started out and was beautiful and then became this terrifying thing. That always stuck with me. That was such a, I saw that movie young, and I think the idea of, seeing a naked woman in a bathtub it did exactly what it was supposed to. And me and Jack Torrance had the same thing. Oh, wait, that's lovely. And then it gets really scary. And I kind of wanted to capture a little bit of that. This figure that at once you see the figure and it's beautiful, but then there's all these terrifying screaming skulls and tentacles of shadow. Trying to get the atmosphere and the texture here was actually a lot of fun. I've been messing with something called Frisket. It's an adhesive. It's a masking adhesive. You stick it down over an entire piece, and then you kind of cut out the areas that you want to leave, that you can splatter texture or color individually or whatever. Painters and artists have been using it forever. I've found as my work gets more complex and I have very specific ideas of things that I'm wanting to do with texture, I think that I kind of got into this and find myself using it more and more. I love the effect that it gives. We cut it out and stuck it down, and then all that fleckiness, fancy word, that you see there, all that you see is really, it's mostly just like splatter from a toothbrush. I loaded a toothbrush with black ink and just went crazy. And there are different areas. I masked off the skulls, masked off the figure, both Andy in the foreground and the ghost apparition in the background, and then just had varying degrees of splatter that you could do there. And it went really, really crazy on the tentacles. They're tentacles, but they're shadow. They're just pure shadow. And I love that. I love that kind of different effect. It was something completely different. It was fun to do. I liked the way that it came out. I really love this page. All right. Well, I've actually kind of blathered. This is an 18-minute video, and I just really plowed through it, but I had a fun time chatting about it. I'm going to do more of these. I've got, I think that it's going to be a normal thing. It's something that I'm really enjoying doing. I think it adds some bonus content. I think each one's going to cover, it's not always going to be about the story. Sometimes it'll be about a different topic, but I like doing them. I really loved the Sabbatical at the Elms. It was a great story that came out of a great writing experience. I love the Haunthology stuff. I love what I'm creating here. It's been a joy, and we definitely need a joy right now. So, as I finish this piece, thanks so much to everyone for checking this out and listening. Expect a few more soon, and have a lovely time. Thanks so much. Come back, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.